very good evening to all of you, ladies and gentlemen, who have joined us from the US and from other parts of the Western part of the world. And a very good morning to all of you who are joining from India. We are here today on a very exciting day with some very exciting people. Rakesh Jhunjhunwala, Arjun Devecha, Ramji, Raghavan, Soumya Rajan, all people who have been known and very well accomplished for one very strong topic of what does it take to make money in India? How do you really invest in the Indian market? What's the Indian economy saying? But most importantly, I think it's about the impact that one can create, through philanthropy and through many other means, after you have been able to achieve success and wealth. And I think that, also in a way is the founding principle, or was one of the reasons when Indiaspora got formed. I'm on the board of Indiaspora Rajan Navani from day one. And when with MR Rangaswamy, who is the founder, and we were discussing at that point, how can we really see the impact that Indian Americans have made in their own societies can be extended to not only make a stronger impact in the US, but also see how that impact can be extended to a relationship with India. And I think these virtual salons that Indiaspora has been able to host through this lockdown period is one very interesting way to engage people from both sides, develop an understanding. Indiaspora's goal, I think, is really to be a trusted platform that can build a very reliable bridge between Indians in India, between the Indian American community in the US, and particularly see how the Indian American community can continue to do a lot more and succeed in different parts of the US and in other parts of the world as well. One of the areas where we have seen a tremendous influence of Indian Americans is, besides business and philanthropy, is also in the US government. We find a lot of Indian Americans now getting into positions of power. How do we really look at this entire ecosystem, and what can we really do between both of our countries as we continue to move forward? So a lot of exciting thoughts, a lot of interesting opportunities, and I think today's discussion is one of those that I think we will cherish and remember for a long time to come. So with some of those opening remarks, I'm now going to request MR Rangaswamy, who's the founder of Indiaspora, and of course the strength and the breadth and the width and everything behind Indiaspora, and he's really championed this cause so well. To take it over from here and take us through a wonderful discussion with Ramji. Over to you, MR.
Thank you, Rajan. Thank you so much for being on the board of Indiaspora. Welcome everyone to this show, much anticipated show. And we're very privileged to have Mr. Rakesh Jhunjhunwala on the show. But also to get started, we also wanted to get Mr. Ramji Raghavan to come on the show and start the show off a little differently. The show will have its moments about money. Is Sensex going to 60,000 or 6,000? But you'll have to wait a few minutes to find that out, wouldn't you? So we're going to start with a little bit of the philanthropy side of everyone today, and then get into the Sensex and what Rakesh thinks about India and the US and NRIs and so on and so forth. We're going to have a wonderful discussion. But initially, I want to start with a story that a lot of you may not know, and that is the story of Ramji Raghavan, who left a cushy job outside of India to come back to India. He had a calling to start an amazing NGO called Agastya, and I've been very involved with the organization for a while, visited their campus, seen their work, and we'll kind of start with how did a gentleman like Ramji Raghavan, the founder of Indiaspora, start a relationship with an unlikely person like Rakesh Jhunjhunwala? So that's what the question I want to pose to you, Ramji, at this point. How did you meet Rakesh? How did this interesting relationship start? And why did Rakesh end up becoming a philanthropist and contributing to Agastya? Welcome, Ramji.
Sure, Emma, thank you very much. Uh, in the early 2000s, when I came back to India, one of the first things, obviously, I was doing was trying to meet people who could help fund the initiative. And a colleague of mine, former colleague in London, a gentleman called Pankaj Talwar, who used to work for Morgan Stanley, he heard me out and he said, "Look, Ramji, you're unknown. Okay, you've been away from India for so many years. There are very few people who are going to buy into a sort of visionary concept that they might not even relate to about curiosity and creativity and so on. But there is one guy in the markets. His name is Rakesh Jhunjhunwala. And I hear that he's the one who's probably most open to new ideas. So let's go and see him." So early 2000s, Pankaj and I went and called on Rakesh. And it was a very stimulating, scintillating conversation. He didn't know me from Madam. And then as the months progressed, I proposed an idea of a mobile science van for children. It was a very novel, innovative idea to go into the villages. And he picked up on it immediately and said, "I'll support one van." A couple of months went by and he said, "I'll support 3 vans." And that was a big deal for me at that time. Today we have 200 mobile vans across India, but it was a big jump. And then one day he called me and he said, "Look, it doesn't make sense to go project by project. Why don't you come up with a 10-year plan? And let's see what we can do to make your vision happen." So it was, a kind of fairy tale encounter for me, because here was somebody who was buying into your vision, looking at the future the way you were looking at it, and willing to support you. So that's how we came together.
No, that's a fantastic thing. Rakesh, I know one of the things I heard in the press that you immediately liked Agastya because of curiosity. And your father had mentioned that to you as a young boy, be curious and do things. Can you take us through why you liked Agastya and what drew you to contributing to the organization?
Anyway, before I start, good evening to all my fellow Indians and others in America and everybody who's present, and good morning in India. Anyway, I met Ramji, and what I had learned in life is that curiosity is the source of all learning. I was a very curious child, and my father was a very patient parent. And he would, I would ask, I was interested in everything in the world. And I would ask questions to my father on everything, and he would patiently take time and answer them. And I think that curiosity became the biggest source of my knowledge in learning. So I thought the purpose of Agastya, in my opinion, is not to teach science, but to arouse curiosity through the medium of science. Because when a child gets curious, he wants to learn, right? And we cannot teach a child until he wants to learn. So my idea is, and then I thought it's a very cost effective measure, even if 5-10% of the children will interact, turn to be turn to be very curious. I think you will be making a great contribution. So I thought that the return on the money to be invested was very great. I believe when I do anything, I believe in the mission and the missionary. My job is to recognize the mission, which I felt was arousing curiosity, which I still think today is. And in the missionary, I had Mr. Ramji Raghavan. You can't believe me, I have been to the Agastya campus only 2 times. Because I don't want to interfere. I don't want to know. I know what Ramji and his team are doing is good. And I don't want to audit them, and I don't want to impose myself on them. When I believe in something, I have faith means I have faith. So I believe, this can really, lead to the arousal of curiosity. And now the number of children we are interacting is unbelievable. And the way it's developed and I thought that, when they talked to them in 2005, I promised them 50 crores over 10 years, right? Starting with 3.5 and ending at 7.5. So you got to take an organization to a level so that it can go to the next level. Without this commitment of that 50 crores, you could never reach that level, right? And then now We've reached one level, we reach another level. See, all this is a process, is going to take time. I have a dream that, Agastya could become one of the largest, charitable organizations doing pioneering work in India. It's my belief it can, right? And that's how I supported it. And I don't tend to question or interfere with the people whom I support. It's not a power game, right? And I'm wonderfully happy by what I've achieved. In fact, if Titan has been the most successful investment of my life, maybe I will be remembered also more for having helped Agastya than for having invested in Titan.
Fantastic. Thank you, Rakesh. But back to you, Ramji. So what has this journey been? How many children have you impacted? How many villages? How many schools have you served? Just give us the magnitude of what Rakesh is talking about with his generous contribution. What have you been able to do with education, with curiosity, with getting kids to learn?
So before I do that, MR, I want to show you this and the audience. It's called the tippy top. Okay, you hold it like this. It sits on its bottom because that's where the center of gravity is, the weight is. But you spin it and it tips over and begins to spin on its stem. And when you see something like that happen, so unexpected, counterintuitive, you never forget it. You go, ah. And the ah is what arouses curiosity. And then you wonder, why does it happen? And there's a lot of math in it. And I haven't understood it. And if you do find out, you experience the aha effect. And finally, and this is something I never tire of, I always have a lot of fun playing with it. It's like, it is a toy, costs all of 10 rupees. So the third element in learning is the ha-ha effect, which breeds confidence. So this tippy top is the essence of what we're doing. Curiosity, creativity, confidence, as Rakesh said, at a very, very cost-effective way. This is just 10 rupees. It can leave an indelible impression on your mind. So we take things like this. We've developed over 1,000 hands-on science experiments. And we take them across 21 states in India, in 200 mobile science vans, 85 labs on motorbikes, for which we got the Google Global Impact Award a few years ago, 100 science centers, 400 odd village school centers every year. 1 million children directly and 1 million through the teachers we train. So 2 million children a year. To date, we've reached 15 million children and created a tremendous platform and tens of thousands of teachers in this very, very important curiosity arousing way. Now, 20 years ago, I remember at a Agastya education conference, there were two former chairmen of India's Atomic Energy Commission. And I spoke about causing a peaceful educational explosion and creating a chain effect. And 20 years on, I can tell you, with the help of people like Rakesh, we've been able to scale and created a platform for something even more fantastic. You know, the first thing is the national education policy has shifted from what to learn to how to, from what to learn to how to learn, a fundamental shift, which is what Agastya has been practicing all these years. So we've had tremendous systemic impact. Now what we want to do is Agastya 2.0, which is from reaching 2 million children a year, can we 10x it and reach 100 million children in the next 5 years? You know, it's a kind of Kennedy-esque ambition, a moonshot. But unless we have those moonshots, you know, we're not going to be able to create the kind of revolution that we dream of. And Rakesh, right in the beginning, I remember, told me, and I thought, this seems a little far-fetched. He said, I see, and he told me this back in 2005, I see Agastya potentially as becoming one of the most important contributors to education in the independent history of India. And I can now begin to see some of that happen. So in a way, you know, his vision perhaps even went further beyond mine. But now we're all energized to go the next mile.
No, that's fantastic, Ramji. And I know there are 260 million children in India. So even if you reach 100 million, you have a long ways to go to get to every child in India, right? And
Correct.
and and so that
Rangaswamy, I would like to explain the economics to you. Let's say cumulatively we would have spent about maybe 250 crores until today, right? And we have interacted with 1.5 crore children, 15 million. So the cost of interaction per child is not 200 rupees. And so you don't want to set up great institute, great, I want to work basic grassroots, right? And CNN made a documentary on Agastya, calling it Einstein in the village. I think we must send it. We should actually have played some part of it here today, right? And CNN was surprised. And we use such simple models. When I send my sons, they are enthralled because they learn with such. My sons are 10 and 11 years old, 12 years old, because they are so excited with the models that they use. I request and I hope, I know all of you are very busy people, you please come and see our campus in Kupam, or we'll set up a, please go to our site, we will put up a video. We have a bio center. I mean, it's enthralling. We have to what we have done to the environment, the ecology, right? When you go there, and another thing is when I send my children there, I send my daughter. She saw, she went to a poor school in a village and she saw that the students climb a hill up and down just to get water. So she realized, my the own daughter, that how there are how much how privileged she is. So I want privileged children also to see the life of poor children, to understand how privileged they are. And I believe that we don't forget that one of our presidents used to walk 10 kilometers to school, right? So we don't know how. I mean, I believe that equality of opportunity is a dream. Equality of wealth is a dream, but equality of opportunity is what we should strive for in humanity. And in a very, very small way, Agastya is giving the ability of equality of opportunity to those children who are not able to have it. That's my dream. And I believe in life that everything is a process. Nothing can be achieved in a day. And it's all pyramiding. So as time passes, I'm very hopeful that, and I believe that if there is a good cause, money is never a problem and will never be a problem. Especially with you journalists, non-resident Indians, you're helping me make a hospital also with Dr. Ramani. They're building an eye hospital in Bombay with the Shankara Trust. So that's what I feel, and I request you that please come. And my lecture and Ramji's lecture is not believing. Please go to our site, see what we are doing, and if possible, please come and visit us, because seeing is believing. You will be surprised, that much I can tell you.
absolutely. I totally echo your sentiment, Rakesh, because I've been to the Kupam campus twice and I'm amazed every time I've gone that. We'll have our team on the Q&A box post the link to the site and to some of the videos and stuff that are available that people can see it anytime they want. And also tell the audience, if you have any questions for Rakesh and Ramji, please post them in the Q&A box or raise your hand and we'll be able to get you.
I would like also, anyway, let's ask the questions.
Yes, absolutely.
I want to clarify certain things. I'm still not a philanthropist. It doesn't depend how much you give. I have a friend called Amit Chandra. He gives 80% of his income. Right? He's a true philanthropist. I still only give 25% of my dividend income. So the giver of wealth, I believe, is God, and all success is temporary and transient, right? And therefore, I pray to God. Mother Teresa said, "Give until it hurts," but I'm not giving so much that it hurts, right?
So
And therefore,
that leads
I
to a
don't think I'm
question,
a
Rakesh.
philanthropist.
Yeah.
There is still a long way to go, right? I will be a philanthropist when I give not the quantum but the larger part of my income, right? And to do charity in Hinduism, we say if we give, we'll get all that. I don't believe. I think it's a duty. God is a giver of wealth, and he has cast upon us a duty to use it partly for good social purpose. And my late father never asked me how much wealth I had. Every year he used to ask me how much charity you did. There was only one thing he was concerned about. And he used to fire me that you have so much wealth. You say, Forbes magazine says you're a billionaire, and I ask you for 10 crores of charity. You make a face, go and bloody die in a pot of water, he used to tell me. And he's no more. I was very close to him. And I realized the wisdom of his words. And when you go to 60, you realize that you are mortal. And wealth has got 5 crore good things, but one bad thing. You can't take it with you. And we have no legacy. Mr. Rahul Bajaj says he can't give away the wealth because his grandfather earned it. Also earned it. I said I can give away anything because I earned it. So I believe that giving away, and I'm also influenced if you read the life of John Rockefeller, the guy who was such a ruthless businessman. But in 1870, he was having 6 children and he was earning $60 or $50 and he should give 30% to charity, even at that time. And he was a malicious, ruthless businessman who would bomb and burn his opponent's petrol pumps. And he said to die rich is to die in shame. So when I think of all this, I think it's, giving is our duty. It's not and I don't bargain with God. Because I and Rekha had late children, so people used to tell me, go to Tirupati and say you'll donate 50 lakhs, you'll have a child. I said, I don't bargain with God. If the rich could bargain with God, they would get everything that they want.
Right.
So with this long lecture, I would like to end my thoughts that giving is a duty. It's not a charity.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Rakesh. And back to you, Ramji. So the 2.0, how are you going to get to 100 million people? Can you quickly tell us? Are you, because in these days of COVID and stuff, you cannot interact physically with these kids. So can you give us a vision of how you're going to get to the 100 million?
COVID is temporary, Mr. Rangaswamy. We are going to live life beyond COVID. I mean, COVID is April, May, June. So I don't think that COVID is relevant to our getting to 100 million people. What is most relevant there is, do we have the organization to do that?
Mhm.
And what I'm happy now is, as I see it from a distance, apart from Ramji, the kind of team we have, the kind of devotion we have, and it's going to take time. It's not going to be in a hurry, right? It's like the growth of a company. It's not going to be, it's a process. So we can get to 100 million children, provided we have the organization and we have the money. I think having the organization is more difficult than having the money.
Please,
So
Ramji.
MR, for instance,
Yeah.
for instance, one of the things we're doing, you talked about physical, is we are now combining digital with physical in a very unique way and created blended learning. See, there are a lot of people in the digital space at scale, but they don't have the physical presence and the physical hands-on experiential expertise. We have the latter, and now we are building the digital online. And so we are creating a very unique animal that blends digital with physical. In fact, right in the valley, Sri Jagannathan, who used to head innovation at Intuit, has joined us full time. And he's spearheading this Agastya 2.0 initiative for us. So we are looking at partnerships. As Rakesh said, it's a step-by-step process, but we'll have to accelerate. We're looking at partnerships. We're talking to Stanford, the Indian Institute of Science, the Tech Interactive Museum. We have relationships with all of them. Museum of Science in Boston. So we're pooling together a lot of brains, well-intentioned people, and building the organization to really gear up for this. I just want to address a question from my friend Sunita Sorabji, who spoke about peer-to-peer learning as being very unique. Yes, we have this unique peer-to-peer learning model where we teach children to teach children. And we've got some 30, 50,000 children doing that. It's very powerful. It's called the Young Instructor Leader Model. And that is another way we multiply our pedagogy across the villages, where children take forward our philosophy, our focus on curiosity and creativity, and they take it forward themselves.
Great. I think we're running out of time for this segment, Ramji. So again, your website is agastya.org. We've also put that in the Q&A box. So please get more questions coming, and we'll get you, back on to ask Rakesh some more questions. But Ramji, once again, I want to thank you so much for being on the
Thank
show
you.
and sharing this journey and relationship between, your NGO and your organization and Rakesh, who has really created this journey. And we want to have both of you come back in a few years and tell us about where the goals have been met and where you're going, because I'm sure you'll be doing fantastic work.